Entering college life can be intimidating, and for students, reminders of home and family are comforting. Well, that's exactly what students find at North Star Dining Room with King and Jean Tang. They're a husband and wife team who make North Star's Asian food station a campus favorite. But aside from producing delicious, authentic Asian food, these chefs are connecting and creating relationships with generations of Cornell students. I'm Dan Gable, and on this episode of See You in the Kitchen, we're going to meet this dynamic couple and talk about how they're giving students a taste of home. We're here with Jean Tang. She's starting the prep here. Jean, thank you so much for allowing us in your kitchen today.
You're very, very welcome.
We really appreciate it. What do you got going on here? What are you doing?
There's a Chinese it's an Asian cabbage actually. And they are a little more, the leaf, you can see is a lot thinner than the regular cabbage.
Oh, yes.
So they're a little more tender and then also a lot sweeter taste than the regular cabbage.
I see, yeah. Yeah, it's really exciting doing a show on Asian cooking because it's such a dynamic process,
well,
such
thank you.
a fast process, and it seems like there's a great deal of prep that's involved. Is that true?
Yes, it's a lot of prepping, and cooking is very quick on Chinese cooking because you want the vegetables stay crispy. And then also when you're ready to cook, you have so many people come to your station, everybody wants things, and also a different way if they want it.
Sure.
So you have to be ready. On the menu for today, we shall use chicken with Asian cabbage. That's one of the dishes, it's a meat protein dish. And then we have tofu for vegetarian. And sometimes I cook it with just mixed vegetable with garlic and ginger. Tonight, we plan to cook it hot spicy because some people like it spicy also. So once in a while, I'll change on the tofu menu. So tonight, we have vegetarian tofu with hot sauce. And we also make chicken egg drop soup. And we also have scrambled egg over rice with oyster sauce. And that's a dish most students like to have. And it's quite popular dish. So that's what we have tonight in the menu. And we try to at least use 3 to 4 different kind of vegetable a night. And we also cook special order. If anybody like anything special other than our menu, we'll try to get it for them also.
Oh, that's terrific.
So,
great. Well, I'm interested in that soup. I think your husband King is going to be working on that.
yes, he's going to make egg drop soup tonight.
Excellent.
Well, he's over there cracking eggs right now.
All right, we're going to go talk to him right now.
Very good. I shall see you later.
Okay.
Thanks.
Grab another table.
We're here with King,
Yes.
getting ready for the egg drop soup. So you're prepping some eggs here?
Yes, we're cracking the eggs for both the soup and scrambled eggs over rice, which we do every night anyways.
I see. Looks like you go through quite a few eggs.
Oh yes, 2 cases a day on the average.
Wow.
Which comes out to 60 dozen.
Oh, amazing.
So that's quite a few eggs.
Yeah. Well, I would love to watch you make the soup.
Okay.
Why don't we go do that?
Why don't we go out there and get it? I'll let Paul finish these eggs and we'll go set up the soup. How's that?
Perfect. So, King, we've got this cauldron boiling away here. Can you tell me about what's in this broth?
Okay, I start with just plain water first. And since we don't really make our own chicken broth here, I have to use a little chicken base to give it a little bit of flavor. And I also put just a little salt and a dash of white pepper in it.
Right.
And then there is a slight bit of yellow food coloring also, just so it has color. That's optional. You don't have to do it. But
Gotcha.
so once we come to a boil, I'm going to add this slurry here. It's actually cornstarch and water. Now the purpose of that is so when I do mix the egg in, it's not just going to go to the bottom. It'll stay consistent. There'll be a little thickness to it.
Oh, I see.
So
that goes in first?
Yep. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to ladle in this cornstarch. I'm left-handed, so I got to do things a little differently here. All right. I'm going to put this starch in here. Gradually work that in until you'll see this broth gets real thick. Now this is going to take a couple minutes here to get that thickened up.
Wow.
I just
Quite a
gradually
batch.
work that in. So till we get a.
How many servings of soup would you say this giant batch would make?
Okay, this you know what? Tell you the truth, I've never measured like per serving
Sure,
because
sure.
what it's going to be. I'll show you the bucket I ladle it in. Then I'll have a backup. I'll keep in the warmer. So as we go along, I just keep adding to it.
I see. Very cool. Now, King, you grew up in a restaurant environment, isn't that right?
Yeah,
Your parents
yeah.
owned a restaurant? How long ago was that?
That was way back. Well, it was a 70-year run. They started in 1931,
Wow.
and then we shut down in 2001.
Wow.
But what it was, the restaurant actually fell into my lap, so I had to, stick it out for the family. And but my son graduated from Ithaca College in 2001, and the banks hired him the weekend that he graduated.
Good for
And
him.
also at the same time, Cornell built this building. I think in 2001 they wanted all freshmen to stay on North Campus for the first year. So he built this building, and our timing was such that they hired us for this particular building here in this station. So it's worked out good for both parties so far,
Right.
so to speak.
So you and Gene have been a team here for a little while now.
Well, yeah, actually, if you want to look at it, they hired us as a package deal when we first started because nobody knew what direction it was going to go or anything else until we actually got started. So
Wow.
and we've been so busy that it's really a two-person show at dinner hour because there's so many students here.
That's pretty
Put this
clear.
right here.
Now, egg drop soup, you say egg drop. Where does that come from? Is it that part of the technique?
I think maybe that's where that egg drop part comes in because what we're going to do after this comes to another rolling boil is I'm going to actually stir it in, but they might think you're just dropping the egg in or something.
And then it cooks as it enters the...
Right. So we'll let this come to another rolling boil. That way I'll know it's ready.
Now, a big pot like this, I imagine it's not very easy to try to work in specific students' requests.
Right. This is for the general population that come in at night. Now, for example, there might be a student that just wants vegetables, so we can make with whatever vegetables we have that night. We can make an individual, say, vegetable soup.
Oh, so
Or occasionally there might be some noodles available, some rice noodles, and she can make that. Usually my wife does that. I just do the egg drop most of the time. So, but if there's individual requests, stuff that they can't have no soy or things like that, we can cook it with water. Otherwise, we just use mushroom base if it's vegetarian. But right now I'm using chicken base for the general. So, and all these are marked when we put them out at night. So what the ingredients like wine or alcohol or soy or wheat, things like that. So anybody with allergies, they'll know.
Yeah, so people know what they're getting.
Right, and that for that reason, if they do have something they're allergic to, they can ask us, and we can cook it like we have wheat-free soy, things like that. So
I see.
okay, now this is starting to come to a boil, so I just gradually just dump these eggs in and stir it in, and then mix that up.
I can see it cooking already there.
Right, so
Very cool. Well, I appreciate this demo, King.
well, no, this just routine. This is what we do every day. So.
Well, now we're going to go say hi to Gene and
Okay, please
talk
do.
about-
I'll
talk about the
continue setting up
ingredients.
out here.
Okay.
Okay.
Thanks, King.
All right, you're welcome.
Gene, I wanted to ask you. We've been talking a lot about.
Sure.
We've been talking a lot about how you guys specialize some of the cooking that you do, tailor it to certain students.
Yes.
And you obviously get to know the students pretty well.
Yes.
We found this. This looks like notes about specific students.
This
Tell me about
student
it.
here, 2007, this bunch here, it comes here all the time. And before they leave Cornell, and they brought me this gift for my house, supposed to bring me luck with feng shui.
Oh, I see.
Okay, that they say they want me to have this to keep me healthy and
That's very
happy.
nice.
So I do know what they like to eat, but I do not know really their name that well.
Sure.
So I just asked them, will you please put your name in here so I always remember your name?
Yeah.
So meanwhile, they put a name in there, and I don't remember all the face unless I know what they eat. So I put a little mark in here. This young lady, Jane Pan, she's from Hong Kong hotel school. She's from Hong Kong, but she's in hotel school. So she loved to eat stir-fried bean sprouts.
Oh, okay.
So I put a little note in here so I remember who she is. So, and this Carl Chan, and they are all coming in the same apartment. They live in shared apartment. That, you know, and after the first freshman, they moved in an apartment.
So you learn a little bit about their lives.
About
actually.
their lives, and then yes, and then Ethel Wong, and she is the young lady. She's slightly taller than me. I just have to remember the way I remember them.
Sure.
So she's slightly taller than this group here, and then this young man here. Every time he comes to look for sweet bean soup. So I put sweet bean soup on it, so I remember who he is, okay? And then William Lee, and then also, and this is a whole bunch here. They are pretty much hanging around together.
I see.
And then I also put down here, I say, I have seen them in RPU before. So I remember this cruise and who I remember, Melanie Tai and Gigi.
That's really,
so this,
really great. Now, this is 2007.
2007.
Do you have a way to remember people nowadays? Do you continue to have a list?
I also had continued had list, and if they come to me, and then I will ask the name sometime, and then also I have a list of people here that with the allergy, and I remember them, each person, how they like their food and how they don't, you know, something they cannot have in their food. So I try to remember them. And sometimes I put a note in here also, in case I get too busy to look at here, but I remember certain things that they like to eat.
Really take care to know what they want. And
yes, what they want, and then after I get used to it, of course I don't need that anymore. As soon as I see their face, I already
know them by face.
By them from the freshmen when they first come in. I try to remember individually so what they like or what cannot have. So that's how I want the note over here to go by that. But after a while, you don't need to anymore. You already know them very well.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned sensitivities and allergies. Do you deal with that a lot?
A lot, yes.
What sort of allergies or concerns?
Mostly wheat.
Wheat
and peanut, sesame seed oil, and gluten. They want gluten-free.
Gluten-free,
This actually is a wheat, it's gluten-free. And then one of them is vegan. So they make sure that everything, you have to scrub everything down because I cook egg a lot. My vegetarian wok is cook egg and vegetarian, but egg is vegetarian but not vegan. So I have to make sure then I cook with water. This is mushroom base, and they have meat base over this side. And then, so I make sure that when I see her come in, and because I always cooking this wok here, when I see her come in, I right away turn on the water and scrubbing. So it saves her some time because they don't have much time to be here.
I see.
And then sometime in case I run out food over there, I have to cook there to fill the line first. I will by the time she get to my station, I already can tell her, come back 5 minutes. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
so
and I guess the fast
most
cooking...
of the time it's 3 minutes.
Wow, so you
So
can really...
I say 5 because
really...
I'm still in the process doing a dish for out there. And also sometimes that I don't have the ingredient exactly what she want. I had to run inside to get it, in the back of the kitchen, the house there. Like, for example, I had tofu tonight, but she likes tofu a lot. So, but most of the time I keep some in here, but tofu, you have to keep it very fresh. If I keep it 2 days, I had to change them.
Oh, yeah.
So, but inside the house always has some tofu in there.
Wow.
So if I see her come in, either I have time to run back or I ask my husband, King, please go in there, give me a piece of tofu. So by the time she get in here, King is halfway back there already.
Wow, the attention is wonderful.
You have to. They don't have much time. You know, their school is very important, the study, and then of course you have to feed them when they have time to eat.
Yeah.
Most of them don't have time to eat. That's not good.
No, especially for the busy student. Really
Yeah,
needs
right.
To...
And sometimes when I don't see some student for a while and they say, well, I don't feel well, or, you know, certain things, I say, why?
Yeah.
You know, but you have to eat.
Sure. Well, and you have everything laid out here nicely, I see, for the wok cooking. Can you take us through some of these ingredients?
Sure. This is cooking oil. It's vegetarian. It's a vegetable oil. And this is a mushroom base for vegetarian. And this is thin soy for cooking. It's soy sauce, but thinner.
I see.
Lighter
Thinner
color,
than
lighter, yeah. And this is the cooking wine.
Oh.
Cooking wine. And the sherry cooking wine. This is ground up garlic, fresh. ground up ginger, fresh also. This cornstarch with water, and this is the hot sauce I made for myself.
Oh, you made it yourself?
I made that myself.
Do you do much from scratch?
A couple of things I do from scratch because the bottled one usually comes in with either sesame oil or peanut oil. That's a very common thing for Asian spice or cooking. So a lot of people have allergy for that. If I buy it from the bottle without making them, I could not use that spice at all on them. So this way I could trust that they can have it without mistakenly something that they cannot eat. So I prefer to make it myself.
Yeah.
Yeah, normally they use like Asian pepper, the very thin, hot Thai pepper to make them, but they're very small and very expensive.
Yeah.
So I substitute, I use a jalapeno pepper.
I was going to ask you about authentic ingredients. Do you find substituting difficult, or how do you do that?
I use that because it's get it fresher from here.
I see.
Because they grew here.
Yeah,
so how can you
sure.
get any more fresher than that, right?
Absolutely.
So, but the jalapeno, one thing is jalapeno pepper is dark color. After you cook it, turn dark. It doesn't look very good looking. So what I do is that I cook it with garlic and cooking oil, and then also I put the red pepper, ground up red pepper powder in there, so it makes a little red color on it. So the more closer to it look, but
Sure.
actually it's jalapeno pepper.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yes.
Well, it looks like we're all ready to cook.
Yes, we're pretty much set up for cooking now.
I'd love to see these woks in action.
Sure. What do you like me to cook?
Well, we've got our menu.
Also, we have some ingredient in here. Like somebody walk in, for example, one time a Chinese girl, Asian girl, and she really have not been feeling well at all. So I say, it's a lot of things she don't feel like eating. I say, but you have to eat. Can I make you something? Why don't I make you some rice congee? Congee is a rice soup, very thin soup. And so I use this here. It's a Chinese bean cheese.
Oh.
So it's a vegetarian cheese, but made with soybeans.
Oh, so no dairy.
No dairy, no anything. So what I did is hurry up, I go over there. I normally have a stove that I make soup too. So I cook some rice thin soup for her right away. It usually take about 15, 20 minutes to cook. But she's not gonna eat anything else, go anywhere. Anyway, she didn't feel well. So I cook a bucket of that, and then I serve her some bean cheese on the side. And also I ask for permission from my supervisor, give a couple cups for her to take back to the dorm.
Wow.
So when she's hungry, then she can have something to eat. Because she cannot eat pizza, she cannot eat sandwiches because they have meat or like mayonnaise or butter, things like that. She really do not feel like having it. She wants something very light and healthy. So that's what I cook for her. So I always keep a bottle of this in here, because this thing here can keep for a while, like your blue cheese, you know. Yeah. So.
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, you really do treat these students like family.
And this one here, the red plum, I make sweet soup with it, healthy soup. So I make that once in a while, and I also have miso. I don't make much of vegetarian soup at all. I mean, egg drop soup is still chicken based, but once in a while people really say, I really want some soup. Can you make me some vegetarian soup? This one is the best thing to make with, because it's a vegetarian, it's very tasty. I put some tofu in there so they can have their soup. And this one here is the golden needle. It's in the package now. You can see it very much. Golden needle is for make hot and sour soup.
I see.
We have certain customer comes in here for hot and sour soup. So they come in, they really feel like some hot and sour soup. What are you gonna do, right? Run in there right away, get some ingredient, and make it for them.
That's really amazing.
So it's not exactly like all the ingredient, but as close as possible, I will make it for them.
Yeah.
I normally have black mushroom, there's no problem. So golden needle is the one I'm usually missing over here. We don't use that much of it, so I just bring a package from home. Can last forever. They're dry anyway, so.
All right, sure.
Yeah.
So it keeps.
Yeah.
That's great.
So they get what they want. I think that most of the time we trying to get what they want only if they speak up. And also you have to really encourage them to speak up. If you see them not eating anything, you should go ask them, can I help you? What can I do for you? Because they come here to eat.
Yeah, really
So
are
they
serving the students.
Yeah, you should serve them.
That's
yes.
great.
You don't want them walk out here hungry, that's for sure. Yeah.
Well, we're going to keep working on our menu here. We're going to get King to come help us and get these walks
very good.
going.
Let me put this away, and then King will come over.
Okay. So, King, we were talking about your restaurant earlier. Did you feel that being in the service industry had any impact on the way you deal with students and deal with your work here?
I think it had quite a bit to do with it, yes, because there's similar parallels. Of course, when you're in your own business, it's a little different, philosophy. But what it did, because we were in it for so long, it gave us a better perspective on not just as customers. Most of our customers were just like family. We were in there for 70 years, our family. Yeah. And people, even to this day, that now that they know we're at Cornell, they might come up on weekends. They accept cash here at Cornell, so they come and, pay us a visit, et cetera, et cetera. But what it really gives us is the background to deal with people. I mean, you go through their problems as well as our problems. You share a lot of things that you just don't do in a regular commercial institution. Sure. So, when we came up here to Cornell, it's sort of the same way. You see these parents bring their kids in, and especially the Chinese ones, when can talk to my wife Jean, and they feel a little more comfortable knowing that there's someone their kids can talk to. Sure. It makes them. So, yes, being say from a Western background does help transition us to here. To what we're doing today.
That's excellent.
Yeah.
Have you found the management to be helpful?
And management has been great. It's been a wonderful marriage for both parties, I believe, because they give us the flexibility. Our chef orders most of the ingredients that we need, almost the same spices that we had when we were in our own business.
Wow.
So that's a plus.
That's great.
So everything just falls into place. It's really great.
Oh, I'm glad to hear
Yes.
that. Thanks again for talking to me,
Well,
King.
thanks for visiting.
Wow, that looks so great, Jean.
Thank you. I hope you taste it.
Oh, I definitely will.
Good.
Tell me, growing up, was food a big part of your life?
Yes, certainly is. My father loved food, and he has many, many friends come over. Every week we'll have company come over. So they usually, when they come over, they will stay and talk and have dinner before they go home. So food is very important to our family.
That's great.
And my mother was a very, very good cook.
Oh, yeah?
We don't have much money, but we cook whatever we can afford to, and then enough for everybody. So, yeah.
That's great. Wow. Well, this looks so good. I'm getting very hungry watching it.
Well, I hope you will try it anyway.
I definitely will.
Yes.
Thanks, Jean.
You're very welcome.
Yeah, no, exactly.
Hey, guys. Excuse me. I can't help you notice that you're eating from the walk station. Mind if I join you for a sec?
Yeah. Sure.
Seems like all the students know the Tangs and their walkery. Just wondering if you guys have any thoughts on what makes the Tangs so special.
I mean, every day when I come in, they always say hello, and they're always so welcoming. And I don't know, it really makes me kind of feel at home. I really like that.
Nice.
And even if I come in at like 7:55 and there's no jasmine tea left, King will always make me more, like every time, which is really nice.
Great. Sort of a special attention.
Yeah.
What sort of impact do you think that has on like incoming students, new freshmen?
I think it makes a lot of people really feel at home, and it makes them feel warm and welcomed in a place that might be new or different to them.
That's cool. Nice.
They cook food very traditionally, and so I think a lot of students definitely appreciate that too.
Absolutely. Well, thanks a lot, guys. I'll let you finish your meal.
Thank you.
Take care.
Hello. How are you today? Good. Is this the way you like it? Yes. But you can add some steam rice. I'll get you some, okay?
Wow. So the Tangs really are able to customize your cooking for you. You're a vegan?
Yes.
What does it mean to be a vegan?
I don't ingest any animal products really, like no eggs, dairy, meat, none of that.
So that could be tricky, I bet.
You definitely can.
And they're able to provide you the food?
Oh
that
yeah,
you want?
she does this for me every day. It's so nice of her.
As you can see, the Tangs are providing a service that goes way beyond feeding hungry students.
Which is very good.
They give their hearts, serving students a little bit of home. I'm Dan Gable, and I'll see you in the kitchen. What better time to celebrate local bounty than fall harvest? I'm Dan Gable, and on today's episode of See You in the Kitchen, we're going to talk with Steve Miller, Senior Executive Chef for Cornell Dining. He's working on the 5th annual Fall Harvest Dinner. He's been kind enough to let us join him behind the scenes to see what goes into making such an amazing event like this take place. Let's go check it out. Hi, Steve.
Hi, Dan. How are you?
Good. How's it going? What are we doing here today?
Just peeling some corn for our fall harvest dinner.
All right. We're very excited about the dinner tonight. Could you tell us a little bit about the menu? What's in store for us this evening?
So we're going to start with 2 soups. One's going to be a Cornell apple and butternut squash soup made with New York State heavy cream. The second soup is made with local organic beans. It's going to be a beef minestrone. So that'll be our second soup for the day. There are plenty of smoked meats, sausages, and other things that are coming from all local sources. So about 90% of the product we'll be using all comes from local sources within 250 miles of Cornell today.
I see. Is that unusual for a university as big as Cornell to be doing this sort of local food sourcing?
It's not unusual for us, so we try to be able to spend our dollars locally whenever possible.
I see. So you mentioned beef. It looks like we've got quite a contraption here. Can you tell us a little bit about what we've got over here?
So we're cold smoking a prime rib, which is a very high-end cut. But Cornell is very unique in the sense that we have a local beef program where we buy whole animals, 6 animals every 2 weeks, and that ultimately ends up in ground beef at all our retail locations. Tenderloin, prime rib, strip loins, short ribs, and flank steak are the only primals that I pull out. So all those other great pieces of meat go right into our local burger, and you can really taste it when you eat that burger. So it's the kind of burger where you don't need ketchup, you don't need condiments. You just eat the burger and really taste the flavors.
I see. So it sounds like you use the entire cow in your.
We do, and that's very unique. And Cornell is very unique in that way. Is we buy the whole cow. As far as I know, we're the only university doing that in the country. So I'm very proud to have that program.
Wow, excellent.
Would you like to look at some nice rib?
I'd love to check it out.
All right, great. So this is the first rotation. You can see we're starting to get some nice bark on the bottom of the prime rib here. And basically this is a cold smoke. So we're using low temperature with apple wood that was harvested from our chef's backyard and from the Cornell apple orchard. Wow. So as you can see, this is the first rotation. They're cooking from the bottom up, and they're very slow roasting. You can see all the beautiful bark that's coming in on the corner of the prime rib. So very unique, and our kids are going to be very happy tonight with locally produced beef that's actually raised at Cornell. They're finished at Cornell. They go 60 miles to be butchered, and then the meat comes directly back to me. So it's a very unique program that we're running.
That's amazing. Now, the students on a normal basis, would they be eating this sort of expensive cut of meat, or is this just for an event like
it's
tonight?
It's a very interesting fall harvest event for this, but campus-wide we use primal cuts for special occasions, like house dinners on West Campus, catering events, special events throughout the year. So we're very proud to have the program, and every day they're eating local meat when it comes to fresh burgers in our retail location.
That's unbelievable. And you really can taste the difference, you say, in the local beef.
I guarantee you we can taste the difference, and I would pay for anybody's burger that couldn't taste the difference.
All right. Is there a health advantage to eating a local meat?
The actual meat, actually the inner muscle fat, which is known as marbling, is much higher in these animals than you would get with commercial grade beef. So is it healthier for you? Maybe, but it definitely tastes a lot better. So ultimately that's what chefs are about. How does it taste when people eat it? So
we hear about growth hormones sometimes when it comes to commercial beef. Is that an issue when it comes to the local meat that we use here?
No, we don't have any growth hormones associated with our beef. The cattle are all born in New York State, and they're raised at the farms they're born on for about 8 to 9 months. And then they go to the Value Discovery Program, which is a Cornell program. They finish them with grains and then right to the butcher. So it's a very tight process, and we also do E. coli testing on all animals to make sure that we don't have any E. coli bacteria in any of our beef.
Fantastic. Well, thank you very much for showing us this.
I can't wait to eat it later. I'm sure you'll feel the same way.
Absolutely. Now you're saying this is the applewood that you've gotten locally as well.
Correct.
Apples obviously are definitely something we associate with fall. It sounded like that was in the soup part of the
yes, it is.
menu.
Actually, I think that's, we're going to walk over. I'm going to give you a little soup demo.
Fantastic.
On how to make Cornell apple and Cornell raised butternut squash soup.
Sounds delicious.
Okay, great. Let's go. So we're going to be preparing some butternut squash, which is from the Homer Thompson Research Farm in Prevost, New York, and Cornell apples that are from the Cornell orchards right around the corner from us. So basically, we're producing this recipe from scratch. This morning, I ground some fresh spices to go in this. So I ground cumin, coriander, some cardamom seed, turmeric, and made a nice curry blend from scratch. And it's really essential to grind your spices from scratch because they're much fresher. Normal spices are on the shelf for a year to 2 years. This was ground fresh, toasted and ground fresh this morning. Wow. So let's start cooking.
Let's do it.
All right, great. So let's see, we're just going to go ahead and release the curry powder into the oil. And what that does, Dan, is it all these essential oils and this spice are going to be infused into this oil. So immediately you can get the aroma of the curry that's just jumping right out at you.
That's amazing.
And you can see how it's releasing its oils.
Right.
And that's where flavors are really built. So by grinding spices fresh in the morning and utilizing them right away, one, you use less, two, much higher quality of product. So as you can see, it's starting to already release all those oils, and you can see how the chili and the cardamom pods are starting to get rich and dark.
Oh yeah, the smells are just unbelievable.
They are unbelievable. Fresh spices is the key to great cooking.
I see.
So we're going to go ahead and add some onions that I diced up earlier.
Are these onions local?
These onions were local. They were grown in the Cicero area, and they were brought to me by our produce purveyor. And all of the onions, cucumbers, tomatoes, eggplant, peppers, butternut squash, zucchini, and summer squash are all grown locally from the time the students get here until the late fall. So every single item the students eat is local. They might not know it's local, but it is local from the time they get here in school in August until late September, early October.
I see. Well, I bet they can taste the difference.
I know I can. We're just going to saute the onions, let them sort of sweat down. We're not looking to caramelize them. We're just looking to get them sort of softened so they start to release some sugar.
It seems like you got layers that you're sort of building of flavor. Is that?
You always build layers of flavor.
I see.
And basically, you don't want to be afraid to put your salt in early to start building those layers of flavor. So I need about 5.5 ounces of salt. And right now I'm going to put about 3 ounces of salt in, because once you put salt in, you can't take it out.
I see.
So you can see the onions are starting to soften around the edges, and we still have the beautiful smells coming from the curry powder.
Absolutely.
And you can see that they're just starting to soften lightly. The butternut squash, being a root vegetable, takes a little bit longer to cook. So we're going to add the butternut squash now from the Homer Thompson farm.
Homer Thompson, is that?
Homer Thompson Research Facility in Freeville, New York. It's a Cornell-run research farm. And today we'll be coming from Cornell research facilities. So what they do is professors have research they want to perform and plants they want to grow. What we do in cases of potatoes is they have one test plant and then 3 filler plants. And those filler plants are what Cornell Dining buys to feed to our students. So the food's actually grown at Cornell for Cornell students. You can't be more sustainable than that.
Absolutely. Yeah, these do look like they take quite a bit of time to break down. Do you cook them all the way in this setting here? Or do
so I'm going to saute them about 3/4 of the way, and then I'm going to add some vegetable stock that we made from corn husk and carrot trimmings and celery and other trimmings from the vegetable from the pantry. And we'll pour the vegetable stock in there and just let them sort of simmer away until they soften. Add the apples, puree the whole thing, and then add that beautiful New York State heavy cream to it to finish it off and make it a really silky feel.
Yeah, so even the cream is from New York State.
Even the cream, in this instance, is from New York State, and we always buy New York State cream.
Fantastic.
So you can see a little bit of sticking going on now, and that's really where you can see a little bit of the spices starting to stick, and you can see that the butternut squash is nicely coated with that curry powder that we made this morning. So we're going to add a little bit of moisture now to it by adding the apples to it. The apples will give off moisture and stop that caramelization in the bottom of the pan.
And when you talk about caramelizing,
yes,
that has to do with the sugars inside the food, is that right?
Yeah, so most foods have sugars in them. And these apples were peeled this morning with an apple peeler. So when you release sugars from food, that's where the caramelization begins. And you see it a lot in onions and other types of food like that. Onions can be softened or they can be caramelized. When they get caramelized, all the sugars are released from that onion and they actually turn brown, almost blackish, very sweet. So the onion goes from being a little bitter when it's raw to actually being sweet as it caramelizes.
I see. Okay. Well, we're going to adding stock is probably the next part of the process.
Yeah, and this is going to have to sort of set for, have to cook for an additional 40 minutes, and I'm just going to add some white wine now and just let it sort of simmer away.
Okay.
Okay?
We're going to check out the pantry in a minute here and take a look at some of the other foods that we've got going on. So that really picks up some of the...
And you can really see the spices start to come out and that smell from the wine, from the New York Steak wine just rolling to the top. So this is basically done for now. We're going to close it and just let it simmer away and add the vegetable stock in a little while and sort of finish that off.
Sounds great. Meanwhile, why don't we check out what you got going on in the pantry?
Well, let's go check it out.
All right.
So we're going to go into the pantry and I'm going to show you some of the sausages we had made from local products.
Okay, great.
Great. So this is the pantry. Lisa's cutting some different sausages. Basically, we had sausages made from all over New York State. Some come from Niagara Falls. You have a venison with blueberry, which is very unique.
Oh, interesting.
So we smoked this last evening, and Lisa's cutting it up for the antipasto platters today. But really, a very unique flavor of blueberries with venison and herbs. Very nice, lightly smoked, but a beautiful product.
It's delicious.
And we also have some pork sausage that was made. This one actually has currants and some walnuts. We have normal hard salami, and Lisa's cutting up some chorizo, which is a smoked spicy sausage that we also had made from Leona Meats in Troy, Pennsylvania.
Oh, wow.
Our meat provider for the beef program.
I see. You can really taste the smoke in here. Is this coming from the cold smoke that we saw earlier?
All this has been smoked in-house. So we bought the product, we gave them recipes, they made the product, and ultimately it came to us raw, and we smoked it and chilled it, and now Lisa's cutting it up for our beautiful antipasto platters this evening. We're also featuring Yancey's Fancy's cheeses, as well as cheese from Cuba, New York. Cuban, New York is about 125 miles away, but they make amazing cheddars. So we'll be featuring those as well as the Brussels sprouts that have been shaved. They're going to be sauteed with almonds and Cornell apples and extra virgin olive oil from my favorite olive oil ranch, which is not local. It's a California olive oil ranch from Southern California.
I see.
So this mozzarella cheese was made at Sorrento in New York State. It comes to us in balls, and we cold smoke this as well. And this will be going on a short rib, a local short rib pizza with a little bit of homemade barbecue sauce and smoked mozzarella. So just think about the flavors in that pizza.
Amazing. Yeah, short rib's such a strong, wonderful flavor, and that's specifically for the pizza, huh?
Specifically for the pizza. We're making 3 different kinds of very high-end pizzas with very different flavor profiles today.
Amazing.
So one will have a Lively Run goat cheese, which is made just across the lake at Lively Run, one of my favorite goat cheese producers. And they also make a beautiful blue cheese as well as a feta cheese. So we'll be using all those cheeses on the antipasto platter.
I see. And what do we have here? Pita chips? Those.
These are pita chips, and we basically make the dough and run them through the pizza oven, and then we season them up, and that'll be part of the antipasto platter as well. So again, made in-house. The only thing that's not in New York State about that would be the flour.
I
So
see.
we try to get to 100%, but we really are around 90% New York State compliant with this specific meal.
90%.
90% of everything that'll be eaten tonight by 2,000 students is sourced locally within 250 miles.
Wow. 2,000 students, 2,000 people at a dinner. I mean,
Yes.
That must present all sorts of issues beyond certainly making a meal at home. What sort of challenges are there in doing a meal?
It takes a lot of planning. So you have to sit down and look at what the bounty of the harvest is going to be in the time frame that you'll be working with, and then plan from there. So I knew that apples and butternut squash would be ready available. I knew that I could have sausages made. I knew that we'd have beautiful vine-ripe tomatoes. Brussels sprouts are a part of the bounty of the fall. So you really design it around the bounty of the fall.
see.
If we were doing a local in the springtime, it would be very difficult for me because we have a lot of snow in the winter.
Absolutely.
So,
Well, that brings up a question. This area is sort of known for its harsh winters, and our growing season is so short. How do you deal with that? Is there a way for you to continue to have local produce in the wintertime?
what we do is we try to use brining and pickling as a way to extend the growing season for our students. We have pickled vegetables on the salad bar, or using root vegetables and roasting them, so that we have healthy local options available for them longer into the season than would normally be available.
Wow. Again, some serious planning.
All about planning and all about execution, and the people that I work with are all very professional, so I'm very proud to be a Cornell Dining employee.
Steve, what do we got next coming up here to look at?
So we're going to go in the back and we're going to look at some amazing, one of the things that I'm really proud of from the Cornell University Agricultural Experimental Farms, 2 items that are just amazing. We're going to be looking at sweet corn and potatoes that were harvested less than 10 days ago.
Wow. Well, I'm excited for that.
I'm really excited as well.
We'll lead the way.
Okay, great. Okay, so here's my favorite area of the kitchen.
Wow.
We have lots of different things going on. So we have all of the beef bones that were harvested from the carcasses of the cows that I talked about earlier. We boil those all down and we make our own demi-glaze from scratch. So this is about 17 gallons of demi-glaze that was made from 6 carcasses. And basically you can see just the beautiful richness of the broth. That's 100% beef bones that have been boiled, just simmered lightly for 48 hours and ran through a cheesecloth. The only thing that's been added to that are some diced shallots and some fresh parsley. So this will keep reducing down, and this will be the sauce for the beautiful prime rib that we talked about earlier.
So how many hours altogether is involved in this?
Well, you have 48 hours of making the stock and about another 3 hours of simmering it down to a nice silky sauce. So about 50 hours plus of manpower put into this. So it's really a thing of beauty, and you can really taste the love in this food.
I bet. You can see it.
You can see it.
All of your stock and sauces, are they all made from scratch?
In this particular unit, the answer is yes.
I see.
So we make all of our stocks and sauces from scratch. So we don't buy pre-made sauces here at Cornell Dining. So next up we have from our friends at the Cornell Research Facility is some of the best sweet corn that I've ever had in my life. And right now we're just washing it. It came in yesterday afternoon. We're washing it off really well, and then we're gonna steam it and leave it in the husk so the students will actually open that corn and have a beautifully, nicely cooked piece of corn that really doesn't even need butter. So I want you to sample it. We're actually gonna taste it raw, and I think that you'll find a really amazing flavor to it. So I'll let you be the judge.
I'd love to.
We're right over here, right behind us. So I have them set up. So basically, we're just gonna taste this corn straight off the ear. And Dan, I think that you'll really taste the flavor in this corn.
This is raw?
This is raw. Can you believe the sugar in there? The Cornell
sweet.
professors are amazing at bringing huge flavors. That's raw. It doesn't need any milk. It doesn't need any sugar. It doesn't need any salt. You could eat that right off the husk raw. It's amazing corn. Look at the color in that.
That's spectacular. Would you attribute that to it being local?
I would attribute it to being local and also the work that the people at Cal's do to bring incredible varieties. And this corn is impeccable. You don't see one corn kernel that's out of place, and the color is amazing. And the flavor of it right raw is just amazing to me.
Wow.
So our students tonight will be eating this with butter or salt and pepper. You don't even really need it. You could eat it raw right off the husk. It's an amazing product.
I'm really struck with the level of quality on all this local produce. It must be more expensive than commercial produce. Is that true?
I see it as cost neutral. So we're harvesting this crop in the bounty of the fall when the crop is most abundant. So it's really a cost neutral project.
Wow.
So we're buying this product from Cornell University, and we're feeding Cornell students with it. Again, you can't be more sustainable than that.
No, sir.
And the next item we're going to look at is the potatoes that are also harvested at the Homer Thompson farm in Freeville, New York.
Oh, wow.
So let's take a look at those.
Sure.
As you can see, I couldn't fit all the corn in. This is how the corn comes to us. This is what would come to anybody from a normal produce vendor. They pack 72 to a case. They send it to me just like a produce vendor would. So beautifully harvested and sent right to me fresh. Can't be better than that. So in the big kettle, we have 300 pounds for this evening of red potatoes from the Homer Thompson Research Facility. We're going to wash those and let those sort of wash all day to make sure that there's no dirt. They've already been picked through to make sure there's no stones, no debris. And what we're going to do with those, we're going to bring them to a boil, and we're going to finish them off with roasted garlic, sour cream, and New York State butter. So ultimately, we'll have about 900 to 1,000 portions of mashed potatoes, and then we do them in batches. So they never get overbeaten and they never become glutinous. So all throughout the night, we'll be doing batches of fresh mashed potatoes.
So it sounds like you make them to order. You don't make it all ahead of time.
We cook it in small batches to ensure high quality. And that's the way the food service should be. Just in time is the key word there, is just in time. So small batches mean just in time, which the students translate to fresh and high quality.
I see. And it's fresh, high quality. In fact, these are very recently harvested. Isn't that right?
These have been on the ground less than 10 days.
Amazing.
So we'll be using these all the way through until somewhere between February and March. We'll run out of this bounty and we'll have to go back to buying potatoes.
I see. Well, what would you say is the environmental impact? It sounds like there's so much less traveling involved. It's so nearby, and you get this produce in such a short amount of time. Does that affect the environment in a positive way?
It does. The carbon footprint is very small on this product. So basically, a truck comes from California, 3,000 miles, costs $7,000 to bring that truck. So we're saving all that carbon footprint and all that refrigeration all the way across the country. So getting these things in the prime of the harvest really brings a lot of nutritional value because it's just harvested and you can taste the freshness. But it's really about being more green and lowering the amount of carbon footprint that Cornell Dining puts on the earth.
I see. So how does this local initiative impact the local economy?
Basically, the Cornell Dining spends its dollars locally, which will translate to more money for the farmers, and ultimately that money circulates within the community anywhere from 8 to 12 times, most reports that I've read say.
Wow.
So that dollar going to the farmers directly, no middlemen, gives the farmers more money, and that money is circulated within the community 8 to 12 times, which is a huge advantage for upstate New York.
Wow. It sounds like everyone wins with the local food.
Everybody wins. It's a little bit more work, but it's well worth it, and you can really taste it when you taste the food.
I bet.
So this corn, when it goes to the stools in a few minutes, will be beautifully cooked. It'll be just in time for them.
Right.
And I really want to show you what the rest of the dinner is going to look like.
Let's check it out. Steve, it's quite an operation that you're responsible for. Obviously an accomplished chef. Can you tell us a little bit about your background?
My background, I started cooking when I was 15 at a white tablecloth restaurant locally. I moved to California in the early 80s when food was really becoming a major factor. And I started working with local in the early 80s by going every night to a farm called Chino's Farm outside San Diego, outside La Jolla where I lived, and get the vegetables for that evening. So I stayed in California until 1988, and I moved back to Ithaca to raise my family. Worked in some local restaurants, and lucky for me, I came to Cornell in 1996.
I see. So you really got started before food was trendy. You really were an innovator.
I was really in the mecca of food when food really took off in the early 80s in California.
I see. I wonder, as a chef, I see you're responsible for so many workers. What sort of philosophy do you have about food that you might try to convey to the people that work for you?
Well, we focus first on safety and sanitation first, because feeding 24,000 people a day, if you make one person sick, you make thousands of people sick. So safety and sanitation is the number one concern for Cornell Dining. After that, my own passion for local and being able to mentor others to come behind me, that Cornell will have great chefs for years to come, is ultimately my driving passion day to day.
I see. And as we're about to have this meal here coming up, I wonder what it's like to look out at all these people, 2,000 people enjoying your food. What's it feel like as a chef to see that?
It's really a culmination of months of work, from designing the menu that's going to work with the bountiful harvest of the fall, to getting the orders put into the farmers, working with purchasing to make sure they're delivered on time so that the prep work gets done. Ultimately, just seeing all the dominoes fall into place, and then this beautiful meal rolls out for our students.
It's got to be rewarding.
It's very pleasurable for me to see happy people and the pride in our people that actually are serving this meal.
I see. Well, looking at all this great food and having seen all the hard work that goes into it, I'd love it if you could talk a little bit about the menu and tell us what we're looking at here.
Great. So we talked earlier about the different kinds of sausages and cheeses that we'll have for our antipasto salad station. And then we'll have 2 soups this evening. One is a local organic 3-bean minestrone. It's made with organic beans that are grown less than 60 miles from Cornell. We saw the beautiful apple and butternut squash soup with the curry and the heavy cream. And then we move on to, we'll be serving a pad thai noodle style with Ithaca tofu that's actually made in Ithaca. And then on our pizza pasta area, we're making mac and cheese with New York State cheddar and smoked Gouda. And then on the hot line, we have the red potatoes and celery root puree, which is the mashed potatoes we talked about. We have the beautiful corn that'll be just fresh from the steamer. We have the smoked prime rib that we talked about earlier with a beautiful demi-glaze that's made from the bones.
Well, it sounds like an incredible meal, and I am definitely ready to eat. And Steve, I want to thank you for sharing your kitchen with us today. I can't think of a better way to celebrate the fall and to enjoy a local meal like this. Really appreciate it.
We'll look forward to doing it again next year.
From Robert Purcell, Marketplace Eatery, I'm Dan Gable, and we'll see you in the kitchen. When you're a college student on the go, you can't always be thinking about eating healthy. During the stressful semester, students want to eat comfort food and not worry so much about nutrition. Of course, during those stressful times is when nutrition should be a top priority. I'm Dan Gable. On this episode of See You in the Kitchen, we're talking with Kathy Holt, chef of Keaton House. She's also at the forefront of the Eating Well with Cornell Dining program. Michelle Wilbur, nutritionist from Cornell Dining, will be joining us as we create a meal that's both nutritious and healthy and delicious. As we focus on nutrition. Hi, Kathy.
Hi, Dan. How are
Thank you so much for allowing us in your kitchen today.
Thank you for
Michelle,
coming. Hi,
good
Dan.
to see you.
Nice to see you.
So, this very successful program, Eating Well with Cornell Dining. Tell me about it.
Well, we'll tell you about it, but we're inviting you into the kitchen, so if
You need to put an apron on.
Of course.
Just for you.
The Eating Well with Cornell Dining program is a program in which we use a logo, an Eating Well Cornell Dining Apple logo designed by our marketing department, and we use that logo to highlight foods or entrees that fall into a specific criteria. Those criteria are the food has to be 100% trans fat free. It has to be made with 100% whole grains. We're focusing on scratch cooking, so using foods that are unprocessed, made from unprocessed ingredients, really thinking about whole foods. And then we're aiming to make dishes overall a little bit healthier, so focusing on foods that are lower in fat, lower in salt, and lower in sugar. That's a main point that we really focus in on with our cooks, training them on how to use, make foods that are a little bit lower in fat, sugar, and salt.
I see, and this is not an easy task, I'm sure, but Kathy's somewhat of an expert in it, and how's that been for you, adhering
It's
to
been
these?
great. I've been working on the program probably about 2 years now with Michelle and with Lorna Bradshaw, and we've developed a really good menu at Grizzly House and also here at Keaton, which I just came here, so I'm kind of new, but we're still working on developing all the menus. But I'm just taking good food, good honest food, and making it better, making it healthier.
Right.
And that's
And
what
you
I'm
used to
trying
be
do.
you used to be famous for some fried chicken, as I understand. And,
Yeah,
and
yes.
now you're known for your healthy cooking. How does that happen?
I still do great fried chicken.
I bet.
I make it eating better. I don't make it eating well. It's still going to be fried, so I can't fit the criteria of eating well. But it is better. We use a trans fat free oil, and I don't use a marinade anymore, like a buttermilk marinade where we would be adding fat. So I'm making a really good product, but I'm eliminating some of the fat.
I see.
So-
You guys have mentioned trans fat. Now, what exactly is the difference between various types of fat? Are there good fats and bad fats?
There are lots of good fats and bad fats, Dan. You know, what we try to do is focus in on portion fats and then really trying to limit the bad fats, otherwise known as the ones that are solid at room temperature. So if you can think about butter that's solid at room temperature versus something like olive oil, which is liquid at room temperature,
Right.
we really want to hone in on those fats that are liquid at room temperature. Trans fats are fats that they actually chemically altered liquid fats and made them solid at room temperature. Margarine's a perfect example.
I see.
So we're trying to reduce trans fat across campus. This Eating Well program is something that we spearheaded at Grizzly Dining, we have here at Keaton, but we also have it in other units too. And we actually use trans fat free oils across campus.
Wow. So butter and fats, this is all when I think of comfort food, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Is it really possible to make true comfort food and still be healthy and nutritious?
Absolutely, absolutely. Does that mean we don't use any butter? No, we still use some butter. We still use some oils. We just use less of them. And if we can't make it taste good, then we don't have it on the menu. Because
great.
there's no sense making something when the students or your staff aren't going to eat it. So we just try to develop new recipes, taking an old recipe and making it better, making it healthier for the students.
Excellent. And today we're actually going to be making some of this comfort food that's also good for you.
Yes, we are.
Can you tell us what the menu is going to be today?
We're doing a chicken cordon bleu, and we're going to do a reduced fat pumpkin cheesecake, which is very, very good, and people can hardly believe that it is reduced fat because it's that good. And then we're also going to do a cream of mushroom soup, so we'll give you a little bit of variety.
Fantastic. Well, I'm ready to start cooking. How about you?
It's great.
Should we do it?
Yeah.
Let's go.
This is my pantry person, Jessica Tran, and she is in the process of making that low-fat cheesecake. So she's already gone ahead and done the crust for it. And what she did was she had a ginger snap cookie that she ground up in the RoboCoupe, and she added applesauce. So by using applesauce, we got rid of the fat. So right there is just, and it's excellent. It's very good. We didn't add any fat at all. There's no added fat to this. We take the cheesecake or the cream cheese. We used a low-fat cream cheese. Actually, it was fat-free. Actually, fat-free. You could use a low-fat, would be good. Fat-free is better, so
Sure.
it comes out good. So it's
I
really
have to
good.
say something here, Kathy. Kathy's always trying to go for eating well as much as possible. We like to sort of blend low-fat, fat-free, full-fat. You know, get the blend so that people don't notice.
Right.
There are some cases that we found that
Yep.
if we go fat-free, it loses taste. It also loses that mouthfeel. A lot of
Fullness.
a lot of chefs tell me, oh, you lose so much flavor if you take all the fat out. And so what we're trying to do is find a nice balance.
Yep.
We found a
Yep.
really nice balance
So, yep.
in the cheesecake, but also with the crust, is we actually, what we've done is use the ginger snaps because they have so much flavor. So with ginger snaps, you have so much flavor, you don't have to think about fat. You can actually
Flavor,
compensate.
full.
Yeah,
The
exactly.
fullness.
And so we're using the applesauce in place of oil. And then Jessica's got a few ingredients. She's got some sugar here. We're actually using egg whites.
Egg whites. Egg whites instead of egg yolks, so it's
great.
healthier yet.
Is that
And there's
less
act-
cholesterol? Is that
And there's
right?
actually vanilla in there also, because
Uh-huh.
her liquids is what she's putting in there. So she's just going to blend that all together, and when she gets it all done, it's a very simple recipe. Everything goes right into here. You blend it up, and then
I think this is a case that if we did not label it as reduced fat, people
They wouldn't know.
notice.
I see. Yeah,
They
that's
wouldn't
it.
know.
That's it. Now, dessert, especially cheesecake, is the last thing I would think that would be healthy.
Right.
Are there other desserts that might be healthier for someone
you're
to?
welcome.
You know, a lot of times what we've done is cut the fat a little bit. We use, you know, in this case, fruit puree, so applesauce, or you could even use pureed prunes. There are a lot of recipes that will add a little bit of whole grain flour, whole wheat pastry flour, something that happens done in baked goods. So to add a little bit of fiber, a little bit more nutrients without really messing up the recipe. So it's a nice blend. And then with desserts, I'm always trying to get students to focus in on portions. So certainly enjoy your dessert, but do you need to have one after lunch and after dinner?
Right.
Maybe split the dessert with a friend, or make it more of a special treat.
Some moderation.
Exactly.
I see. Okay. Well, I guess this is going to take some time to bake, and we'll be looking at this later after it's in the oven. Next up, I guess we're going to work on some soup.
it smells so good.
Wow.
Really does.
This looks great. So what's going on here?
Jean's making a cream of mushroom soup. It's an eating well recipe we've developed. Instead of making a roux with a fat product, either margarine or butter, we make 2% milk, and we put our flour in it, and we thicken it, the soup with that. And so it's a lot healthier for you. There's no added fat.
You mentioned replacing margarine. Now, why is margarine the bad thing?
Well, again, it's not necessarily a bad thing. We're not promoting good or bad food. We're just trying to reduce some of the fat. And so some of the tricks of the trade is to make a roux with flour and milk, or you could also do cornstarch and milk, and you reduce some of the grams of fat in the overall dish. Another trick that Chef Kathy has done has moved over from using cream. So a traditional cream soup is using a lot of heavy cream. Not only does that help us save a little bit of money, but it helps us save calories, especially fat calories.
Because cream has so much more fat than the 2% milk would.
You know, again, this is another example of if we use something like skim milk, you lose that mouthfeel. But a lot of times with 2% milk, a lot of our students really respond well to it. They like that it's not that heavy, that they can enjoy a comfort food like cream of mushroom soup, but save calories and save on grams of fat.
Absolutely. Now, you're mentioning all this dairy. It just gets me thinking about, as a nutritionist, you must be dealing with allergies and sensitivities. Now, obviously, someone with a dairy allergy is not going to be having the soup, but how do you deal with all these sensitivities that students tend to have?
You know, we're actually really proud here at Cornell Dining to be able to work with so many students that have food allergies. We have a range of students that go from very severe to very mild food allergies. Here on campus, we have a couple of gluten-free stations, so people can get gluten-free items. We offer broth-based soups. If somebody were to come in, for example, with a dairy allergy, we would provide them with some foods that may not contain cheese or dairy, for example. So we really I work individually with each student that has special needs, and they, we set them up with a cook, a chef, make sure that they're getting a plethora of food, because we don't want them to go hungry, and certainly we don't want them to be eating the same thing every day.
Of course.
We have a lot of students that will come in, and once we meet them, and Michelle will send the information over to me, and I'll meet the student, and then we will sit down and talk to them, and they know that they can come in and talk to any of my cooks, like Jean or any of my day cooks. If there isn't something here, they know that they're more than welcome to ask for something, and we will take care of that for them. So that's kind of a one-on-one with this. We're seeing a lot more of it, a lot more of people with allergies. And not having enough to eat is not an option for us. So we want to make sure that they get a good variety too. So if there's something there they can't have and not enough, then we take care of that for them.
Seems that awareness in this area has really grown over the years.
Yep.
Now, what's going on here? Is this the roux that you're talking about?
Yeah, he's making the roux. It was just a base, and then he's going to add the milk to it, and then he'll do a salt and pepper finishing taste.
I see. It's interesting to see this on such a large scale. Obviously, a student at home who might want to try cooking this isn't going to be able to do it quite like this. But do you have advice for someone who, like a student maybe in a dorm who has like a limited kitchen, isn't really able to work with the kind of equipment that other people might have? Any thoughts on
This could be something that anybody could do in a regular kitchen. It's really very, very simple. It's doesn't take up a lot of time.
Just a couple burners, I guess.
Right. I mean, I think it's with cooking. If you haven't done it, maybe you're a little scared. But once you get into it, it's great. It's easy. It's great, and something everybody really needs to know how to do to take care of themselves.
Absolutely.
Dan, I just want to point out that a lot of students live on processed foods. They're quick, they're easy, and they're cheap. You know, a way for a student to make cream of mushroom soup healthier at home, even if they wanted to use get a can of canned cream of mushroom, they could use 2% milk instead of whole milk in the when they make up the soup. In addition, there are lots of ways you could buy lots of better soups. So there are a lot of options. There are a lot of different recipes online that we often go to eatingwell.com, cookinglight.com.
Right.
Cooking Light has a great cream of mushroom soup, and it's simple. It's just like this, where you're using a 2% milk and then using less fat.
Well, this is beautiful. I can't wait to try it. I'm also eager to see what's next on the menu. We've got chicken cordon bleu here coming up, right?
It's going to be just a few minutes. I think we have some
It's in the oven.
in the oven. It'll be ready. And
All right, looking forward to
just be
that.
a few minutes.
Wow. So this is the chicken.
This is a chicken cordon bleu. It's kind of a two-part process. We pre-cook the chicken some and season it, and then what we do is we add the ham and the Swiss, and we finish it in the oven.
Now, how is this different from what you might expect in a typical cordon bleu at, say, a fancy restaurant?
Typical cordon bleu, you would have a breading on it, and it would usually be like a roulade, and it would have the egg and the flour and then the three-part breading, and you would fry it. So we tried to make it to have the same ingredients except for the breading by making it more nutritious, and plus keeping the wheat off of it. People with wheat allergies could actually have something also.
Oh, that's great.
We're seeing so much more of that now, so I try to think a little bit gluten-free, a little bit more than what we used to.
Sure. So the breadcrumbs, aside from being the gluten-free element, is there anything about them that makes them less healthy, Michelle? than by eliminating the breadcrumbs?
Well, I think, to Kathy's point, we're definitely trying to limit allergens. But then on the other hand, to be completely eating well, to fall into those criteria, they need to be whole grain breadcrumbs. In a product like this, sometimes you lose integrity of the dish if you're going to whole grain. So we thought keep the breadcrumbs out and do a dish without the breadcrumbs.
Sure. You've mentioned whole grain a couple times. What is it about whole grain that's any better than otherwise?
Those whole grains. They're whole grain everywhere, aren't there, Dan?
Yes, that's right.
Whole grains are a starch carbohydrate that includes the whole product, the whole kernel. So it has not been processed. We often, when you take a starch, they produce it so that they take away great nutritious parts like the germ and the bran. And those have a lot of vitamins, nutrients, and actually fiber. And fiber helps keep us feeling fuller longer as well. So the whole grains, not only do they have more nutrients, but they also have that fiber which keeps you feeling fuller longer. We're actually finding that more and more students are requesting whole grains. So
I see. Do you find many students requesting, like I'm noticing this is very protein rich. Is protein an issue with students? Do you find requests for more or less protein being in the diet?
actually, because of the eating well, we're trying to focus on lean proteins, and a lot of students in general request lean proteins. This is a perfect example. We're using chicken breast instead of chicken thigh or chicken leg. Those are definitely a lot more lean. Other examples would be pork tenderloin, right? Or
pork tenderloin.
chops.
I try to use sirloin, like beef tips. I use the sirloin beef tips.
Less fat there.
Less fat, and it may cost a little bit more, but it's better for us, and if it's the program. So, but we're trying to get right away from chicken thigh meat altogether. I try to use chicken breast for whatever I am doing, or except for I still use the chicken eights. Like I said, there's always that one little.
Sure. Now, there's in terms of scratch versus processed. I know processed food is a big issue, especially in dealing with a big kitchen. Do you guys struggle with having to deal with processed food to save money, or how does that work? The balance.
Processed food, really, I think is probably more expensive in the long run, if I'm not mistaken. From what I've seen, processed foods are easier, so usually they're going to be more expensive. So by doing the scratch foods, actually, other than the labor, we're saving money. So it's better for you, and you're saving money.
That's terrific.
And the processed foods, there's so much. You ever look at the ingredients? Some people, there's stuff in there, I don't know what it is. So it's like, I'm sure Michelle knows what it is.
A basic rule of thumb with the unprocessed food is looking at those ingredient lists, and if the first 4 or 5 ingredients ideally are whole food, you can pronounce it, probably your grandma knew what it was, that's going to be an unprocessed food.
Right.
In general, I think Kathy's right. A lot of times they are a little bit cheaper, but we also have to think about labor. So when we're building menus, we have to take those into consideration.
Sure. Convenience has got to be such a big deal. Certainly for students that are on the go, I know they're more likely to try to grab something, from the store that might be processed. I mean, do you have any suggestions or advice from a student that might have to go to the store and grab something processed, or something that's just quick and easy?
Well, I think, Dan, this goes back to our first point. Any student can make a small change. So if they're grabbing a sandwich on the go, if they can choose whole grain bread or a whole wheat bread, or even a whole grain bagel instead of white. So that's one small change they can make that they're increasing some of their nutrition. Additionally, I often ask students to bulk up their sandwiches with vegetables. At a lot of our delis, we have cucumbers, lettuce, tomato, onions, peppers, sprouts, with tons of veggies. In addition to those, to meat and cheese, you actually can make a really nice big sandwich and, have it be healthy.
That's great advice. So, Kathy, if you're willing to bring us to some of this food so we can see what it looks like all done.
Follow me.
So I see she's taking the temperature here.
Thank you.
Is that just to make sure that it's done?
We take
Oh, this is good.
We tempt any foods that are sort of at risk. So protein foods are definitely one of those.
Sure.
So we're tempting it, making sure that it's done before we preserve it. Sorry.
Oh, this looks really good.
Yeah, it looks great.
It sure looks delicious.
And it smells good.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
You know, I think in the case of typical cordon bleu, you've got a cream sauce and you've got the breadings. We're saving a lot of calories here, but it still has so much flavor.
Oh, you can tell just by looking at it.
It smells delicious. Actually, we did this for one of our house dinners, and they just absolutely loved it.
I think Kathy actually gets a lot of athletes here. And,
We do.
They're always looking for things like chicken breast.
Thank you.
And grilled fish. She often does a lot of fish entrees.
There, that looks good.
Nice lean protein. They're looking to bulk up with the weightlifting and all that.
Absolutely.
Oh, and there we go. Some more vegetables. Wow. Fantastic. So this is the cordon bleu.
Yeah.
So Dan, speaking of vegetables, what I try to encourage students to do is fill up their plate with vegetables and fruit. Ideally, make half their plate fruits and vegetables. You know, the idea really is to focus on portions as well. So you can eat all sorts of healthy food, but actually have too much of it. So, you know, try to balance that plate. And if you're getting an abundance of fruits and vegetables, you're typically getting lots of nutrients, but also saving on calories.
Oh, that's great to keep in mind. So this meal is nothing I'd ever consider to be a focus on nutrition, because it just seems like it's so heavy. It's just amazing that we can be eating cheesecake and cream of mushroom soup and cordon bleu, and that it's all a focus on healthy eating. It's amazing.
It's all that focus on healthy eating because we are using lighter ingredients. But to go back to that point of portions, again, you know, if somebody's going to eat half that cheesecake because it's healthy,
Yes.
they're definitely going to be having an excess of calories. So, you know, in general, if you're eating ingredients that are tending to be a little bit healthy, you're saving on calories. You can eat a little bit more, but not necessarily too much.
That makes sense.
A good example would be if you were to compare a typical cream of mushroom stew, which is right here, a typical one, 4 ounces, you're going to get probably about the same amount of calories as 8 ounces or something that's a little bit lighter.
Great.
So you can have a larger portion, or a similar portion, but then have less calories at the end of the day.
Sure. Michelle, most people don't know what's entailed in being a nutritionist at a big university. What's it like? What's your day-to-day here at Cornell being a nutritionist?
Well, actually, I'm one of many dietitians at Cornell. I work primarily with Cornell Dining. I'm the only dietitian with Cornell Dining. We have nutritionists with Gannett Health Center as well. I work on the food service side, so I work with the chefs, and we work on menus, certainly menu balance and coming up with great recipes like this. You had mentioned food allergies earlier. I work with a lot of students that have special needs and special diets. We have all sorts of special requests, so I try to work with each individual student. And then we have fun. We try to have at least once a month, if not more, have fun events. For example, just last month we did a beef tasting where we brought in the New York State Beef Association, and we did a tasting so that students could compare the taste between local beef and traditional store-bought beef.
Oh, that's cool.
And it was completely blind, so we let them taste it and see what they thought.
Oh, cool.
In the same time, we give them nutrition information and really trying to connect food, taste, and get them thinking about food in a different way.
I see. That's great. Kathy, you think we could try some of this soup, some of these great things here?
Absolutely.
Kathy used to work at Risley. I guess that's where you started doing more work with nutrition and eating well. Now, you've been there for a little while. You've been at Cornell for, over 10 years?
I've been at Cornell for 21 years in January.
Oh, wow. So
I've been at Risley 10 years.
Oh, I see. So you must have seen some real changes in food and nutrition over the years.
Absolutely.
How have things changed?
5 years ago, even, things have changed a lot. We've had some soup here. What's changed the most for me in cooking is the fat. The fat. I remember when I first started cooking at Cornell, all the heavy cream that we used, the amount of heavy cream we used would kill a cow. I guess I should say that or not, but
This soup,
I mean,
you
it's like a lot.
You can't tell that there's no. I mean, this is delicious.
Made
It's
with 2%.
really silky.
So,
Yeah.
you like that?
Great textures with
flaky.
the mushrooms. It's great.
Great. But yeah, I think the heavy cream and the processed foods, we're using a lot less processed foods. It's still a little difficult at times. I could do a little bit more if I could get like whole grain pasta sheets, so we could do lasagna possibly. Fit the Eating Well program. We still do it eating better, but can't everything be eating well.
Sure.
But I think probably to answer your question though, probably the heavy cream for me anyways has been the most dramatic. I don't use heavy cream hardly at all. If I do use it, it's usually in desserts.
Well, that's
for
great.
Special occasions.
Got this cordon bleu over here too.
Yes. Look at this.
So try that. What do you guys, in terms of challenges? This seems to me to be a daunting. Thank you.
You're welcome.
A daunting task to bring nutrition to otherwise fatty or heavy foods. What are some challenges that you faced orchestrating all of this?
Well, not being able to get the product is the biggest headache, I guess you would say. But actually, Michelle has gotten us a lot more. We've gotten more whole grain pastas, the Barilla, different kinds of pastas. So I think education is the biggest key.
So where can students find this sort of food?
Any student can look for the Eating Well with Cornell Dining logo. And right now we have it at a variety of units. We have it here at Keaton House. We have it at Risley Dining, at North Star, and Rose House.
Great. All of this is just so delicious. We'll definitely be enjoying that. I'm Dan Gable, and we'll see you in the kitchen. Hi, I'm Dan Gable, and welcome to See You in the Kitchen. We're here at Robert Purcell Marketplace Eatery, preparing for Cornell Dining's 6th annual Fall Harvest Dinner, which features products from local, regional farmers and merchants. This year, we're very lucky to have chef and author Barton Seaver. His mission is to use food as a way to restore our relationships with the ocean, the land, and each other. Steve Miller, executive chef of Cornell Dining, has been kind enough to let us into his kitchen to watch him prepare one of Barton Seaver's dishes. Let's see what Chef Steve is up to. Steve, thanks so much for letting us in your kitchen again. Good to see you again.
Good.
What do we got going on here today?
So this year's Fall Harvest is not only about local, it's also about sustainable fish. So we have a gentleman, Barton Seavers, who's working with Michelle Obama on sustainable fishing for the United States, coming. So we're doing one of his dishes today. And it's called lobster with linguine, chives, and Roma tomatoes.
Sounds great.
So it's beautiful, sustainable, lobster sustainable from Maine. So these were flown in from Maine, and we cooked them. And I'm gonna go ahead and show you how the demo goes together.
I love it.
All right, great, let's go.
Is this actually a wok here that you're using?
It is a Chinese wok, and we had it custom built to be able to serve large quantities of people. So we're just going to put a little oil to get the aromatics started. It's a very simple dish, but it has a ton of flavor. So we're going to we'll get the oil nice and hot. As you can see, it doesn't take long for it to start smoking.
Sure.
We're going to add some beautiful julienne shallots. Give this a little stir fry. We'll
kind of oil do you use for this?
This is olive oil for this particular dish. Chef probably wanted a little of the olive oil flavor in the pasta. If you use things like canola, they're more neutral and they'll absorb other flavors. Olive oil, this was specifically meant to enhance the flavor of the lobster in the pasta.
Right.
So as you can see, they're starting already fairly cooked. It cooks very quickly. We're gonna go ahead and add the diced Roma tomatoes.
And this recipe is actually from Chef Seaver, is that true?
Yes, and his book's called For Cod and Country. We're just gonna season these up a little bit. We don't want too much salt because we're gonna use a little lobster stock. Now we're gonna add our beautiful Maine lobster that's in big chunks.
Oh yeah, that's gorgeous.
So the students will be getting this exact same meal this evening. That's the amazing part.
Excellent.
So you can see the tomatoes are releasing a little of the liquid. Beautiful color in there. And now we're gonna add our chopped chives for some green and some nice onionly flavor. We'll add the pasta. The pasta's been blanched for 5 minutes and stored overnight, and what that does is it gives you perfectly al dente pasta.
Oh, I see.
So if you cook pasta ahead of time, you need to cook it for half the time and then let it go in the cooler overnight. So basically, that's pretty much the dish. I'm gonna add a little lobster stock. We took all the shells, fortified it with fresh vegetables, roasted vegetables, a little bit of tomato.
Great.
And you just want a little bit of that smell and taste of the ocean in there with that pasta to let the pasta absorb those flavors.
Now, is seafood a big deal when it comes to sustainability, more than, say, produce or other
It's
foods?
becoming what the biggest deal is going. So our oceans are getting depleted from having beautiful product. So sustainability, where it comes from, the sourcing of seafood, extremely important. So instead of bringing vegetables from California, we grow them here. Seafood, we need to make sure we're gonna have seafood for generations to come.
Sure, yeah.
Every chef in the country is working to be sustainable and doing the right thing by the ocean.
So has that changed in terms of sustainability in food? You've been working in the industry for a little while now.
It's been a huge thing lately. So a lot of people grow in what we would call farmed areas. So it's controlled environments. Basically, that way you can control what products you have, when you have them, what quality they are. You control the feed. So a lot of the products we're featuring tonight are from sustainable farms. There's three different ways to measure the Monterey Aquarium board, and then there's one for sustainable seafood and another one for farm-raised seafood that's sustainable. So we're following all three, and we're working forward to increasing our percent as every year we're trying to increase the amount of percentage.
That's great.
So we have this beautiful dish.
Whoa, that looks
You can see it's right from his book. We didn't need a little garnish of chives, and I didn't really taste for salt and pepper, but I'm sure that we can get some forks, knives, and spoons, and we can have some, and you let me know what you think.
Sounds great. I mean, it looks like to me like the quality of the product only improves with a focus on sustainability.
The quality of the product is definitely, you can taste the difference in quality. The same way with our local meat program that we talked about last year.
Yeah, sure.
You can see it, you can smell it, and you can definitely taste it on the plate. The same thing is with seafood. Do the right thing by the earth and enjoy what we have an abundance of, and find ways to showcase that product. That's the key.
Yeah, well, with that philosophy combined with your standards of excellence, I'm really excited to eat dinner tonight.
Well, I'm excited to eat this right now, so why don't we do some of that?
Sounds good to
All right,
me.
great.
Chef Seaver's bringing more than just recipes to this event. He believes that food is a crucial way for us to connect with the ecosystems, people, and cultures of our world. He explores this philosophy in his first book, For Cod and Country, and joins us today to present these issues to the Cornell community.
What really drove me as a cook, as a food person, was the communion that it creates, the relationships that are inherent in the things that we do every day, and the products that arrived in our back door, and the relationships that we created, the loyalty, the trust, the friendships with our customers. That's what really drove me. And so I began to really take myself off of the plate, to take a step back and really examine those relationships that I was forming. And one of them was really to examine the relationship with our ingredients. And I began to realize that the species with whose bounty I was so familiar with as a child, they were gone. or prohibitively expensive. And by gone, I don't mean like mysteriously zapped up by a UFO. I mean that we ate them. You know, let's not kid ourselves about what's happened to nature. Nothing's wrong with nature. There's only something wrong with how we interact with it. And I began to realize that, you know, striped bass, there was a moratorium on it at this time. The blue crabs, you know, the famous bounty of my childhood, gone. Prohibitively expensive. I couldn't afford to eat them myself on my day off, let alone serve them. And I realized that the guiding hand of natural selection in our world has really become that of the consumer. And that, in fact, is driven by the chef. And you think about this, you know, 25 years ago, who'd ever heard of Chilean sea bass? Well, it didn't exist. But me and my colleagues, we put it on every menu across the globe as Chilean sea bass, the Patagonian toothfish. You know, it's my colleagues who took slime head and turned it into a heretofore unknown delicacy called orange roughy. It's my colleagues, it's me, it's us in this room right now who are purposefully extirpating bluefin tuna just because we think that we need it. And I really began to realize that you know, if chefs have the power to make the people that we serve and the earth itself sick through the foods that we purchase and that we cook, therefore it stands to reason that chefs also have the power to heal and to restore, not only the people that we serve, but also the earth that provides for us. Just as National Geographic sends an expert eye and witness of our world, so too do we. We just send our forks in our stead. You know, this is our relationship with our natural world. This is our place within the systems of it. And what's so compelling about this to me is that while there is certainly plenty more to explore about our world, new species to discover, new areas to be found, new planets to go to, certainly, I think that the next great phase of discovery won't come from gleaning new knowledge about our Earth, but rather in learning how we relate to the knowledge that we already have about our planet. And I think that the best way to do this, I think on a human level, the best way to define our place in the systems of this world is through dinner. The next great leap in our evolution will be for us to become humanized. And it's an incredibly powerful idea. But what I like about it is I don't know anything that's more humanized than the ritual of dinner. In fact, we are the only species on this planet that has ritualized the art of feeding. And in fact, dinner can remind us of why it's beautiful to be human. The communion that we all share, the joy and the human morality that we have created. And you know, through dinner, we really seek to feed a very complicated hunger, getting back to that idea of humanizing our understanding of things. And by complicated hunger, I mean that we seek to nourish with a lot more than just calories. You know, through food, we seek communion, we seek joy. Through delicious tastes and flavors, discoveries, we seek family and a shared cultural past. You know, we seek jobs, we seek community, we seek health, we seek connection, we seek exploration. All of these things are delivered to us with every bite that we take. But most of us have probably forgotten that. You know, the idea of having whatever we want all the time has really brought with it disastrous consequences. It's brought obesity and diabetes. It's brought heart disease and you know, premature deaths. It's brought economic and environmental destruction. You know, and this is not what I think most of us think of when we think of the joy of communion, of sitting down to a meal. And I really realized that part of environmentalism, part of the sort of the humanitarian mission of conservation is really about refocusing what we think we need. You know, it's not about finding more fish to feed more people, but rather it's better feeding people with the fish that we have. We can't find more fish. There's no more out there. We can't slash and burn any more rainforest to create any more arable land. We can't do it. But what we can do is we can learn how to better feed ourselves with the resources that we actually have at hand. And that, to me, is really the overarching narrative of sustainability, whether you're talking about seafood, farming, petrochemicals, energy, whatever it is. It's all the same. It's about better aligning our place in the systems of this world. Now, one of the best examples that I've...
When you combine Seaver's forward-thinking approach to food and the high level of culinary talent we enjoy here at Cornell, the sky's the limit. The Harvest Dinner is a highlight for many in the Cornell community. And with this year's inspiration, we're all in for a treat.
Hey, Ava, how's it going?
Hey, how's it going? How are you?
good. What do you think about this event?
I think it's fabulous. I mean, where you get to celebrate, you know, the local harvest here in Ithaca and all of the bounty that, you know, Ithaca and the Finger Lakes have to offer. The food's always delicious, and you know, it's a really great time. I get to hang out with my friends.
That's cool. You know, with this talk about sustainability and the talk and all that, what does that matter in your life? Like in your eating and your food choices, you care about that?
I mean, it matters to me. I study sustainable agriculture here, so I spend a lot of time thinking about food and how much food impacts my life, and I try to make sustainable choices when I eat.
Cool.
So.
That's awesome.
Yeah. All right, well, have a great dinner.
Thanks, you too.
Bye.
How's it going?
Good to see you.
Good to see you. Quite a spread here, huh?
Yeah, they did a great job. They did a very, very nice job with the food.
So that lecture was something. Does sustainability matter in the work that you do? Do you find customers are looking for sustainable?
Yeah, as a distributor, we find more and more people are very interested in sustainable products. It's become more and more evident. The people that are growing up nowadays, it's become something that they've grown up with. And for them, it's something that we as a distributor have to face every day, and we need to find the resources that can bring that to the table.
Is that hard to do? Do you find that challenging to make that happen?
Yeah, we actually do. But it is growing more and more. More and more the distributors or manufacturers are realizing it's very important to this culture. And they're starting to understand what people are requesting. They're understanding what sustainability is, and it's becoming more prevalent. Still, it's in its infancy, but it's growing in popularity.
I see. That's cool. Well, time to eat some of the sustainable food, I guess.
Let's dig in. Sounds good.
Concerns of sustainability when sourcing product and planning menus are far-reaching in a large institution such as Cornell University. So in addition to his talk, Chef Sievers agreed to lead training sessions with Cornell dining staff to introduce ways of incorporating sustainable seafood and vegetables in creative menu planning.
I use food as a lens to explore how we relate to ourselves, our community, our family, and our natural world through the resources we take from it. All of this is for the purpose of conservation, because food is really kind of the confluence of nearly every scientific and commercial enterprise that we have. And it's also, by and large, kind of the most intimate, celebratory, and necessary relationship that we have with our natural world. The problems that are facing both us in both societal as well as environmental issues are not going to be solved by, stopping eating or doing anything such drastic as that. So, to me, the compelling narrative of conservation is really a story of responsible consumption. It's about what we do, how we do it, who we support while we're doing it, the purposes that we seek to serve in feeding ourselves, in supporting our communities, and that's what I want to talk to you about today. Sustainability isn't really about cooking, it's about purchasing, it's about connecting people to the ingredients, and ultimately it's about kind of figuring out how we encourage those relationships through the food that we serve. And it's about menu development, it's about the ideas of food, not necessarily recipes. So we've got a couple of different fish that I want to introduce you to. Many of you have probably seen them before, but just to think about them in new ways. And I want to talk about other ways to kind of scoot good nutrition into food, and that's that. So ultimately, I usually talk about vegetables, because vegetables are the way to save yourself some money, the way to save your own life, the way to save the environment, and the way to best connect to your community. Wow, that sounds pretty good. And all you're telling me I have to do is grill up some broccoli and serve it with an anchovy vinaigrette, and it's delicious, and it's fun, it's healthy for me, it saves me some money. Wow, that's really cool. Well, yeah, duh. You want to save the oceans, you want to save the land, eat more vegetables. What makes cooking fun to us? Is it the giant steak? Is it just the protein on the plate? No. What makes us unique? Is it the protein? No. Unless you're serving unicorn, well then congratulations, you're unique. But what makes cooking fun, what makes eating fun itself, is the vegetables. It's the textures, it's the variety, it's the colors, it's the nuance and the mix and balance of flavors. It's the acid to the fats to the textures, wow, that's what makes food fun. Anchovies are one of those things we're never going to get people to just open a can of anchovies and suck it down. It's not going to happen in America. It happens in my house. Not going to happen here. But the best thing about anchovies is that they can be hidden in almost anything, and they deliver absolutely pure nutrition. There's zero toxicity, zero mercury, zero PCBs, zero dioxins. These are the organic environmental toxins that some seafood can gather. They have none of those. They are super, super high in omega-3 fatty acids, which are the cardioprotective acids, the DHA and the EPAs that we're now just beginning to find out how good they are for us. Not only that, but they have cranial and neurological developmental benefits for children, pregnant women, and nursing mothers. Basically, anchovies are as close to a superfood as we have. The Peruvian anchoveta fishery. It's the world's largest single species fishery. It accounts for 25% of all the seafood that's taken from the ocean on a yearly basis. 25%. 100% of that fish that's taken out of the waters in Peru is destined for reduction fisheries. A reduction fishery means it's in the grout that is holding the tiles onto the wall. It gets milled into chicken feed, into feed for pigs and cows. It gets turned into fertilizer for agriculture. It gets turned into moisturizers, lotions, lipsticks, all sorts of things. It's in hundreds and hundreds of products in industrial uses. Now, if anchovies are delicious and they're good for us and they're cheap, why are we feeding them to pigs? Why are we brushing them on our face in the morning in the form of moisturizer? To me, sustainability isn't about finding more fish, which is not going to happen. It's about better utilizing the fish that we already have. And in this case, why the hell are we feeding delicious fish to pigs? Have you ever seen a pig go fishing? I haven't. When I do, I will have newfound respect for that pig. Evolution in action. Very cool. The best place to buy sustainable seafood is, in fact, in the canned fish aisle. Canned pink salmon, canned mackerel, canned herring, sardines, anchovies, mussels, clams, oysters, and in fact, the majority of tuna are some of the most sustainable, most delicious, most heart-healthy options that we have. Plus, zero waste. Again, a lot of the things that are commonly available, a lot of the things that are pushed on you by your suppliers are the things that they know that they can sell. So salmon, trout, Arctic char, things like that.
Over the past few years, we've entered a new era of food. More and more, people are focused on where food comes from and what it does to our environment and our culture. And when dealing with the volume that Cornell Dining serves, this isn't easy. But it's crucial for our future. We continue to push towards an enlightened approach to feeding students, and people like Barton Seaver and the dedicated staff of Cornell Dining are central to that cause. At Cornell University, I'm Dan Gable, and I'll see you in the kitchen.